Organic Climbing is the official sponsor of Sends and Suffers podcast. If you're going to trust your fingers, your toes, your bum to anything, trust Organic Climbing, the original, the OGs, the real G. You can custom make chalk bags, crash pads, almost anything that they sell, you can drip it out to your own. Because sometimes when you go out climbing with a bunch of friends, everybody's stuff looks the same. So shine in your own special way, the way that you are. Go to Organic Climbing, pick up some gear, tell them that Mario sent you from Sends and Suffers, and look as fabulous as you are. Friends and enemies, lovers and haters, welcome to Sends and Suffers podcast. I am your host, Mario Stanley. Today, my guest is Juliet Hammer, a renowned coach, climber, and if you've met her in real life, you might know that she's short, but best believe she is mighty. We talk about loss, we talk about coaching, we talk about climbing, and just her journey through life. I hope you enjoy this episode. Please enjoy Juliet Hammer. Juliet, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'm not going to assume everybody knows who you are, even though I think if anybody who watches rock climbing should know who you are on social media, 'cause I think you're a phenomenon.
Thank you.
And you crush all the boulders, and I actually enjoy watching you rock climb a lot because, I mean, don't murder me for saying this, but you are not the tallest woman.
No, I'm certainly not.
But
some might even say I am short.
I mighty and short. But I have always been very interested in watching you climb and just your ability to figure out boulders for yourself, figure out things for your height, and then just watch that play out on screen. So it's something that I have greatly enjoyed. But if you don't mind, who are you? Where you're from? And what is your connection to rock climbing?
Yeah, my name's Juliet Hammer. I am originally from Virginia, grew up around there, went to college there, then spent a handful of years out in Denver, Colorado, before moving here to Chattanooga. Been here 2.5 years now. And I've been climbing since I was a kid, was one of those team kids. Yeah, I was one of them.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I went to the climbing gym in Virginia. It was like 10 minutes away from where I lived.
What was that gym called?
Sport Rock.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Was that this first location?
It was actually the third location.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, their first location was in Rockville, which isn't open anymore.
Okay.
Second was Alexandria, and then third was Sterling, which is where I grew up climbing and did the competition circuit for a handful of years. Went through like a teenage burnout phase.
Classic.
Yeah, classic, very classic, from 16 to 18. And then when I was in college, I picked it back up and started climbing outside, and haven't stopped since then. So yeah.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 29 now.
29. You don't look it. You tell your parents you have amazing double helixes.
Yeah, I got Filipino blood in me, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
that explains where the fire comes.
We say thank you.
That explains where the fire comes in your rock climbing. Okay. Yeah, okay. I did not know that you grew up competing in the competition circuit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, do you feel like, obviously that plays a lot into your climbing. Like, was it easier for you to pick it back up when you were in college? Like, how long was your burnout time? I think that's interesting.
Yeah. I probably took around 2 years off from like 16 to 18-ish. Went through my first year of college without climbing, and then started back up this summer between my first and second year of school.
Nice.
And it definitely helped in just having foundational skills and strength to where it didn't take too much to get back into it. And and then once I started climbing outside, I felt a lot more motivated by that than the previous kind of indoor climbing competition circuit.
So the relationship you have now with climbing, is it in any way similar that when you were a youth athlete? That's it. Because I use relationship just because, I think because you said you got burned out. Like, I think that is a key word with that. And so, like, how do you manage that relationship now? Do you still get burned out, or is it now? Are you just like, climb everything right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely It's pretty different, the relationship I have with climbing now. When I was younger and I started in the competition circuit, it wasn't really much of an issue. It was just like, oh, like we just go to the competitions with the team and I get to see all my friends from
Mm-hmm.
all over, the region or the country, and it was exciting. But then at a certain point, and maybe this is more of a thing today with youth competition climbers, but it definitely got more competitive, more focused on the outcomes, the results, all of those things. And I felt like at a certain point, I was just training to be better than someone else. It didn't matter how well I did as long as it was better than someone else in that like competition scene. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter if yeah,
Yeah.
if that makes any
No,
sense.
it does.
It's
And
very extrinsically motivated
y-
and
yeah, no, it does. And it just kind of sounds like, I can see it on your face. It's like there's not a lot of joy in what you're doing at that point in time.
yeah,
And so, like, it
yeah,
just doesn't sound fun. I guess, like, the way
yeah,
to say it, point blank, it just, like, does
yeah.
not sound fun.
And it probably wasn't the right environment for me either. I get really anxious. I did like a handful of competitions as an adult and yeah, just get really anxious and yeah, it's not where I thrive. So yeah, moving to outdoor climbing was really helpful because it is a much more intrinsically motivated sect of the sport,
Mm-hmm.
where you're just seeing what you can do, and it really doesn't matter what anyone else is doing because it's just you versus your project or the rock or whatever. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, like as I continue to move through my relationship with climbing, because there are times where it can be kind of easy to get distracted by more of those results and outcomes and how things look and all of that kind of things, and just remember uh, why I'm motivated to climb in the first place and stay focused on that.
Do you find, and I only ask this because, like, this is something that I definitely deal with. And maybe I'm like getting way too existential here, and if I am, just feel free to tell me to shut up. But do you ever find that like your relationship or climbing is sometimes a direct reflection of how your relationship is with yourself?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, and especially as a climbing coach, which I didn't mention earlier, I do have my own climbing coaching business. It's definitely something that comes up a lot when having discussions with clients, and it's yeah, certainly climbing can be a really good way for those things to. Maybe I shouldn't say good way, but it is a way that these things can kind of come up and come out. And it's important to be able to observe that happening and be aware of it happening and hopefully take the necessary steps to kind of reflect on it, think about it, and um, keep that relationship with climbing healthy.
Yeah, no, so okay, I agree with you. And I guess like is there anything that is of late, and I know we're just like kind of diving like real emotionally deep here. And I also want to be clear, like this podcast Sends and Suffers, I it's funny, I tell people like I care about talking to climbers and I care about your climbing, but I also make it very clear that this podcast can absolutely have nothing to do with climbing a lot of the time because I don't really care about talking about like training plans, grips, or things like that. I'm more curious, and I think I'm more curious on like your journey through life and like why are you here? Why have you chosen to take this path? Why are you so obsessed with climbing or obsessed with the sport that you're doing? And I think it's more important to have these conversations because, and you're a coach, and I think you see this probably happen a lot. Like sometimes it's more important your clients want results and people want results, but I think it's also more important that you seem relatable and they can
Mm,
see a little bit of their own journey within your life. So
yeah.
that allows them to trust you more, that allows them to like actually open up to you and give you the information that you need.
Hmm.
And so I guess like the question is, has since you've been here in Chattanooga, because you said you lived most of your climbing life in Denver, has there anything that's kind of like popped up that you've learned about yourself or any the moments of growth? I know it's kind of a big existential question,
Yeah.
but I'm just curious.
Well, we are certainly doing this interview at an interesting I don't know if crossroads is the right word, but at an interesting time in my life because I've kind of gone through some pretty significant losses in the last few months that have really, yeah, I guess shown a light on how I use climbing as a coping mechanism, as like a tool for healing without going too overboard into it.
Would you say more for like distraction or diversion, or like, or is it more of like helping you like dive deep into the issue?
Um, I think it depends on where you are in your healing process, really. I think, um, yeah, so I guess to just say it.
If you
Yeah,
want to,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
go for it.
So I lost my mom in August of this
Oh,
year.
I'm
So
sorry.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. So that was really hard and still is really hard. And it's definitely, I guess I've never had like such a big loss to where I've really had to dive in and get familiar with the grieving process. And it's, I mean, it's been a really good growing experience, because grief is something that eventually we all go through. It's a
Yeah.
very human experience, and um, it it's interesting going through it as a climber. And again, yeah, just figuring out, okay, how can I use climbing as a tool to help in this grieving process without necessarily like taking it too far. So, as far as at least my experience with grief and the process, and it's of course different for everyone, but right off the bat, when things are like very emotional and very intense, I think climbing is an excellent way to distract yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, and like I know we kind of say, oh, like don't run away from your problems, this or that, but like there is a time and a place where it is appropriate to like get yourself out of the house, get yourself out of bed, and go climb, whether it's in the gym or getting yourself outside. I think it's like a very healthy coping mechanism in that
Can I
respect.
maybe like say that in a different way?
Sure.
I think there's a time and a place just to be fucking pissed
Yeah.
and just rage
Yeah.
and just get mad and just like just distract yourself and get lost and just freaking utterly rage.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay. Just I mean, and this is just me, And granted, I've never dealt with that level of a loss, and once
Yeah.
again, I'm very sorry.
Thank you.
But I know in my own experience, like I just need to get fucking pissed.
Yeah.
And I apologize for anybody for language on this episode. I know there are families that listen to this, but grief is a really hard thing, and so I think it's okay. I think I agree with you. I think just going out, depending on how you were using climbing,
Right.
like if it was more like let me search, or more if it was like I'm gonna crush this freaking V12 and I'm just gonna be mad and I'm just gonna be rage and just let it out. But I agree with you. I think you have to just, if you don't lose yourself, you can honestly never truly know if you need to find yourself. And because if you think you're found, then you're all the time you're in this illusion,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like walking around in this state of like, I don't know, like,
Comfort.
yeah, or blissful euphoria,
Mm-hmm.
or like this numbness. And
Mm.
so I think you kind of have to get lost and kind of get a little beat up and get a little messy and get a little angry to kind of realize, like, to get your bearings, like, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
so once again, like, yeah, like I agree with you
Yeah.
wholeheartedly in that.
Yeah, and yeah, just as I continue to move through this experience, I have a lot of gratitude for having something like climbing in my life. It's I try to be pretty open about sharing what's going on in my life as far
Have
as
you always been that way?
um I think so. Yeah. I mean,
I'm
as
not
far
questioning
yeah,
you. I'm
yeah,
just
yeah. I'm
asking.
like
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, as far as social media and all that
Oh,
kind of things.
that's different.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I try and show up as like authentically as I am comfortable with online. And this was obviously a very big thing to happen, and I eventually shared when I was ready about it. But I think it's, yeah, like you said, I don't know, we're all humans, uh, and we all go through things in our human lives maybe before we start to add like climbing to the equation. So I just try and be genuine about and real about my humanity, and it doesn't always have to be posting about the sends and all of that. So
Yeah, no,
I try.
I think that,
Yeah.
I honestly think that's more important because, like, whether people admire you, follow you, or look up to you or anything, like, all people want to know is that, like, you're a real person. And in the age that we're moving into now, like, people just, I don't know. And I think in the next 10 years, you're going to have to, like, I think if you didn't grow up in the age that you are now, trying to identify like fake AI people,
Oh.
is going to be a thing. And I say
Yeah.
that now just because like people are trying to curate. So many people are trying to curate the story of their life instead of letting just like, this is just me. This is who
Right.
I am.
Yeah.
And I think that's like extremely important. So I think, is there anybody in your life that's like kind of helped you through this process?
I am definitely very grateful for the climbing community and the friends that I've made here in Chattanooga. It's definitely been, yeah, it's as hard as life gets. It's also been a period of time where I've seen just how kind people can be, just how great people can be. Like I've definitely seen and am grateful for seeing the best of people and having people show up for me. So we're getting through it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch gears. I'd like to know a little bit more about your coaching. When did you get into this? Why did you get into this? I mean, it makes sense being a former team athlete. Like this is like a nice transition. Did you know this is what you wanted to do out of college, or was this kind of like came out of necessity? Like how did this part of your life start?
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting journey. I went to school for I got a degree in biology, and my first job out of school was working in a research lab at the University of Colorado at the medical campus
Mm-hmm.
in Aurora. Did that for almost 3 years, and it was really nice. At first, yeah, making that move to Colorado and getting out and climbing a lot, but definitely living that 9 to 5 weekend warrior life. And I just decided that I wanted to try and create a different lifestyle for myself, where I could get out climbing a little bit more and have my career align with my passions a little bit more. Climbing just felt like the itch I couldn't scratch kind of thing. And so I took a fun employment break, went climbing for a couple months in my little sedan, and then came back and wasn't really sure how to start creating that life for myself, but
Mm-hmm.
I just went ahead and got a personal training certification and ended up working at a personal training studio in Denver. Yeah, maybe in the back of my mind, kind of knowing that there was something bigger ahead. I didn't want to be a personal trainer forever or anything. And then when the pandemic hit, it kind of it forced the issue more, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So pandemic hit, a lot of climbers reached out to me for training plans. They knew I kind of did like the personal training side of things. I was just working with general population folks at the time, but I got a handful of climbers reaching out, and I was making them training plans. And all of this was run through the personal training studio I was at. But then kind of the time came to go back into the studio in person, and I was like, no, I think I'm gonna try and make this climbing coaching thing happen. So that's when I started my business.
Were you nervous about that leap? Like going into that? Like, did you have, I don't know. I say this because like I've done some online coaching many, many moons ago. I've been coaching for 20 years, plus. And, I think about like wanting to make that leap. And, there are some milestones I just want to hit in my life first
Mhm.
before I like make a leap into that world.
Mhm.
But like, was there any major concerns? Like, were you like, I'm gonna be like homeless and poor? My parents think I'm going freaking insane. Like, my parents, I climb full time for a living. It wasn't until like 5 years ago when my mom saw my taxes. It's like, oh, you make money. You're not a homeless person.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, kind of, yeah, all of the above. It's definitely scary taking, a leap of faith of trying to start something and not knowing how it's going to go. I think at a certain point, though, it's just kind of how much you believe in yourself and your ability to make things happen.
mhm.
And and don't get me wrong, there's a roller coaster. I've been doing it like 3.5 years now. The first couple years, I mean, it's definitely, you just go back and forth of just like, what have I done? This was like a terrible mistake. I should just go get a job. But ultimately, yeah, I know that I'm like a very motivated person. Can, I don't need someone else telling me what to do in order to get things done. And I just believe in my ability to do my job well, and I do believe that I have something to contribute to the industry. And
I
so
would
just
agree.
kind of holding on to those big affirmations and beliefs has helped me get through those doubts.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think you're probably by far one of the most successful coaches.
Oh,
I
thank
would
you.
say so. I mean, I have had, like, I, personally have never worked with you in that capacity. But I have definitely referred people to you, and
Oh,
I've
thanks.
definitely, just knowing and seeing you online, and I've met people who have been trained by you. And I've only heard wonderful, nice
Aw,
things. So that's it.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Thanks for sharing
I
that.
mean, I hear you like to crack the whip a little bit,
Oh
but
yeah, is that the case? Well, yeah,
I mean, I was about to say, I think that's par for the course.
sure. Yeah.
Uh, but that makes sense. So how long has it been total online coaching? And then are you still accepting clients, or do you have a limit, or is it kind of like how do you run this business?
Yeah, so it's been, just about 3.5 years since I officially formed my LLC. And yeah, currently still accepting clients. I've kind of played with a number of different program ideas throughout the years, and eventually I've landed on two forms of coaching that I have available now, which one is one-on-one coaching, which is about what you would expect from hearing that, but yeah, just really personalized,
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one attention. And then I also have a membership program, which is a little bit more generalized, a little more kind of on the client to personalize the program to themselves, although I do provide the tools for that. And those are, the two ways you can work with me right now.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Is there, let's say is there like a beginning level that you work with people on, or like it's like someone's first day rock climbing ever, like never rock climb, or do you prefer to work with people who have a little bit of like climbing experience underneath their belt? I only ask because I know people who are like that. Like some people are like, I prefer to work with people who at least, climb a certain grade or have
Mhm.
at least like 2 or 3 years of climbing experience underneath their belt or something like that. Is there a caveat that someone should be aware of so they can work with you and utilize you to the best of their ability and get the most success out of forming a partnership with you?
Yeah, I don't have any sort of grade minimums or anything like that. The people who do tend to come to me are folks who have been stuck in a plateau for an amount of time and just need some help figuring out what to focus on and where to put their energy towards to continue to make progress. So just the tendency tends to be people who've been climbing for a handful of years and have gone to that point where they hit a plateau. But if a beginner were to come to me brand spanking new, I wouldn't say that, oh no, I won't work with you because
Yeah.
of you don't hit some sort of grade minimum. But I would also encourage the beginner climber to enjoy being a beginner. Being a beginner is so fun. And like, of course, we're really motivated by making progress and accomplishing things and all of that. But I mean, if I were to discourage someone from working with me, it would be that like it's really fun to be a beginner, and the way I would coach a beginner would be lot more like free form. I would want them to like really be exploratory with things, and it wouldn't feel right to me to be like, here, let me give you this really regimented plan with all these drills and all these things, because you haven't even gotten to play yet.
Do you kind of miss that a little bit?
In some ways, but I've tried different activities to just rediscover that joy, and it is so fun.
Like anything in particular recently that stood out to you?
Yeah, over the summer, I started to dabble with roller skating, like the quads.
Oh,
Yeah, and I didn't do it that much, but oh my gosh, it's so fun to just like kind of be bad at something and explore different things with it, and see the people who are at the roller rink and doing cool dance moves, and you're like, oh, I want to be able to do that one day, and like, I don't know, it's just pure fun. Yeah.
I can agree with that. I recently picked back up hacky sack.
Oh.
And I this like at first I was like, I just need something to do to kind of like entertain myself or like go. But now I find myself I'm like I lost my mind because I thought it was so great. I was like really excited because I was like messing around with it, and I managed to keep the hacky sack off the ground, hitting it for like I think it was like 45 seconds.
Nice.
And I was just like, "Rah!"
Yeah,
Like, this
so
is victory.
psyched. Yeah.
And it was like a cool little victory, and I definitely get that a lot.
Yeah.
Do you find that like so I just finished up an episode with Pete, and this is something that we talked about. Do you find that actually doing that consistently or having that like I don't know a name for it, so let's just say beginner's joy or beginner's experience. Do you find like doing that? Do you find doing that in other things, or would you say doing that in other things consistently could make you a better climber, a better athlete? I think it makes you a better person.
Yeah.
But like, do you think that could feed into you to becoming a better climber? And if so, why or why not?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I think the beauty of being a beginner at something is you get to really explore the learning process, which is, again, why if a beginner climber came to me, I would want to keep things pretty loose and not too regimented, because if you're really intentional about it and like observe yourself learning things, that is good information to take back to your main sport or yeah. I lost my train of thought, but
No, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, so the statement was it's like understanding that like being consistently putting yourself in a situation where you are a beginner or a newbie and you have to work through something, is that going to be good to the more experienced climber, the seasoned climber? Like, do you think that will consistently make you a better climber?
Yeah.
Or a better athlete? Let's take
Yeah.
climber out of the equation. I
Yeah.
think that's over specifying.
Yeah.
I think will it make you a better athlete in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it can definitely give you a pretty healthy perspective on your main sport.
Has it done that
maybe.
for you?
Yeah, I mean, it just like takes the pressure and expectations out of things and gets you moving in a different way, where yeah, you're still learning movement, you're still learning about learning. Will it directly translate to climbing? I don't think it's maybe necessarily like, oh, go roller skating and you will become a better
Skate.
at walk offs or something like that. It's not
No.
going to translate in that way, but I think
Mentally?
the main benefit would be the mental side of things.
So do you You know, Taylor Fragamini.
Yes, I know of her. Yeah.
So we just talked, and we were talking about from the youth coaching aspect
Mm,
that we feel like most coaches overemphasize the physical aspect, and we
mm,
think that people don't teach enough, or coaches at least prepare athletes for the mental side of it.
mm-hmm.
Do you think the same thing applies with adults? Do you think that people like overemphasize, like, I need to be stronger, I need stronger fingers, I need stronger core, I need stronger this, instead of just being like, no, I think you need a little bit more mental fortitude to like be consistent with your project,
Mm-hmm.
or just like also just maybe just to be kinder to yourself while you're
Yeah.
working on this.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the person, and it's one reason why I really like to take a pretty holistic approach to my coaching, to where I don't know, there's definitely coaches in the industry, and there's nothing wrong with this, who kind of really go down the physical side of things, or like the technical side of things, or the mental side of things. But I really like to approach the person as a whole person and as a whole climber, to be able to see like, okay, where would it most benefit you to focus? Because there are some people who their strength is their mental fortitude, but could use more physical training. Or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I definitely get plenty of people who are, as far as their like strength metrics go, they're totally fine. And yeah, there's probably something else going on that's worth looking into, on more of a mental side of things. But um, I yeah wouldn't want to make a full blanket statement.
That's fair.
Yeah, with it, I think everyone's just pretty individual, and even within someone's own climbing career, it can shift throughout time.
Oh, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I
So.
definitely agree. I would say for myself, I've always been a pretty strong mental climber, but I've definitely like mentally I can approach a climb, but I've definitely had an issue sometimes with like even my emotions on a climb,
Mm,
or I physically my physical abilities, and I find like those two wavers. And in my experience coaching athletes, it's like it's either emotional, mental, or physical,
mhm.
and you're usually always working on kind of two of them.
Mhm.
Very rarely do I think it's very rare in time that all three line up perfectly in Zen moments, and then you have this perfect send. I think that
Mhm.
maybe happens like once or maybe a couple times in your entire life. Like most of the time, it's a process. So you've been coaching for 3 years. You're here in Chattanooga now. Like, do you have any big plans? Like, do you have anything where you're planning on going, taking yourself? Do you want to like get out of? Like, what's your next place that you want to jump to out of Chattanooga? Maybe overseas. Do you have anything that like you're working towards that we can kind of keep up with?
I wouldn't say I have any hugely solid plans coming up. I'm kind of at a place where I am really seeking a lot of stability currently, just given the last half a
Makes
year.
sense.
So I'm pretty happy staying put in Chattanooga for the time being. I would like to take some trips and travel, but don't have anything like on the books yet. But yeah, I'm really in this next year looking forward to, yeah, hopefully having some stability in my personal life, and really being able to put a lot of energy into the coaching business. There's a lot of kind of continuing education that I'm excited to dig into, and um, yeah, try and continue getting people good results from working with them.
Okay. So outside of climbing, what is something else that brings you like a copious amount of joy? Like for me, it's cooking. Like I
Mm,
absolutely love to cook. I am an amazing chef. I'm a
nice.
terrible baker. I do not do
Okay.
science.
Okay.
Like I like math, chemist, like or doing chemistry per se
Right.
is very bad for me. But
Yeah.
actually but like cooking, slap happy. I love it. And
Nice.
it's something that brings me a lot of joy. Is there anything outside of this sport that like I know you mentioned you like got into roller skating. Is there anything else that you like to do that's I guess that people don't know about you?
Um, I do really like to play music.
I would have
Uh,
not guessed you as a musician.
yeah, I don't know if I'd call myself a musician, but
I
it's
mean, if you
something I
like to play,
enjoy
you
to
are.
do. Yeah. Yeah, I play the guitar and the piano. And
Any
those are,
singing?
I do sing a little bit.
Oh,
Uh, not for people usually, but
For your
on
pups?
my own for my dog. Yeah, and that's something that is another really nice outlet that's got a different kind of creativity side to it. That's really nice. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you ever decide to, throw an album on Bandcamp, I think you'll get a lot of support.
Yeah, I don't know if that's in my future, but yeah, I'll keep playing for my dog.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for taking your time out of your day to come down here. I know here at the convention and that we're at, and I hope I have the opportunity. I really wanted to climb with you yesterday, but I could not make it. Are you planning on climbing between? It's raining. No, sorry. It's gonna rain this Sunday, isn't it?
It's gonna rain Sunday, but I'll get out somewhere tomorrow. We'll see where.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I can join you and climb with you. If people want to find you, hire you for your services, or just connect with you because you're a freaking awesome human being, how can they do that?
So I'm on Instagram at Juliet, JULIET_Amanda, and my website is julietamanda.com. So those are good starting points.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Cool. Well, thank
Yeah.
you for your time.
Yeah, thanks
and
for
I'll see you
having me.
later.
I hope you enjoyed this episode with Juliet. If you need a coach, check her out. Her handle is Juliet_Amanda. So if you need some coaching help, or you just think she's badass and you want to say hello. Thank you, as always, for listening to Sends and Suffers podcast. And remember, if you're not suffering, are you even sending at all?